And we're live. Welcome, everyone. This is the final day of Black Breastfeeding Week. I'm Crystal Tennille Irby, and I'm here with Kimberly Sills Allers, and it's ManDay Monday. So the focus of tonight's Facebook Live is to allow Black men to talk about their journeys when it comes to being partners and breastfeeding. And I think that this is an important conversation because I think in order for us to really shift culture around this, we have to expand the conversation beyond Black birth persons and get non-Black birth persons who want to have children involved in the conversation, uplift their stories, so that they can also understand how to be good partners. And, you know, when people share their experiences, it makes other people feel as though they're not alone on the journey and to kind of push through. So just a little housekeeping. If you have comments or questions, please put them in the comments, and we'll be taking questions at the towards the end of the conversation. So don't feel like we're ignoring your questions. We're taking note of them and they'll be answered at the end of the conversation. We also want to know who's watching. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're watching from, and why this topic is important to you. Again, I'm Crystal Tennille Irby, and I'm the co-host of Dim Black Mamas podcast, and we're co-sponsors of Black Breastfeeding Week this year. And Kimberly Sills Allers is with us. Kimberly is a co-founder of Black Breastfeeding Week. She is also an award-winning journalist, author of 5 books, international strategist and advocate for maternal and infant health. And she is going to be introducing our panel tonight. So Kimberly, I'll let you take it away.
Oh, thank you, Crystal. I'm so grateful. Dim Black Mamas has been such a great support. I'm a huge fan of the podcast and the ways that it's really changing the narrative and sharing stories about Black women, their creativity, and the role that plays on our journey. I am so honored to present to you this evening our typical annual feature where we really center the conversations of Black men in our community. Tonight's ManDay Monday conversation is pretty personal and I think really rooted in some in some experiences that need to be told. One of the things that we do during Black Breastfeeding Week is always about sharing Black stories. And so tonight we have two dads who are both new dads, but really having a very different journey on their infant feeding experience. And so we know that there are so many issues, not just around partner support, but also around the other ways that we feed our babies, whether that's combo feeding or, you know, donor milk feeding. And that in particular, when we think about the high rates of Black maternal mortality in our country and the disproportionate amount of Black women who tragically die after childbirth, what about the infant feeding plans for them, right? And so how do we kind of create new awareness? How do we share stories across our feeding spectrums? So I'm really honored tonight to have with us in this conversation, first, Dr. Torian Easterling, who is the Deputy Commissioner at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And then we are honored to host in conversation Bruce McIntyre, who is the partner of Amber Isaacs, who tragically died after childbirth earlier this year in the Bronx. And Bruce is now the founder of the Save a Rose Foundation, which he'll tell you a little bit about later. And he's also an entrepreneur. And we are just so honored to highlight this conversation. And I'm going to see my way out, but just want to leave it to Dr. Torian and Bruce to really share with us this evening. Thank you both for being a part of Black Breastfeeding Week. We're grateful.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, we're going to just jump in here, Brother Bruce. You know, it's ManDay Monday. And so we get the space and we get the time to really just talk about our journey. And as we heard from Kimberly and Crystal, it is Black Breastfeeding Week. So it's amazing that, you know, they've created some time for, as we've heard, like non-birthing persons to be able to talk about it. We have the honor of being able to raise some beautiful Black babies. and we get to talk about it a little bit. So I know that we're new dads, and I know that Kimberly had talked about sort of your experience already. I prefer if you could talk about your story, the story of your beautiful partner, Amber Isaacs, who's also the mother of your son, Elias. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, so on April 21st, I lost my partner, Amber Rose Isaac. Um, it's been very tough. It's been very tough. She died during pregnancy. She had pregnancy-related complications. That was a stem from medical neglect. My son was born April 20th, the night before. He was originally due May 30th, so he was a month and 10 days premature. My partner Amber was being neglected all throughout her pregnancy, but it really started to reflect during her second and third trimester. There were, Amber was an early life teacher at a school program. She was the head teacher. So during the peak of COVID, early February, COVID is starting to peak. They're starting to tell people to stay home. These kids are going to school with no doctor's notes, sick, and they're sneezing on Amber, rubbing saliva on Amber, kicking her in the stomach as she's picking them up. And at this point, her health is starting to deteriorate. Her platelet levels were starting to decrease, and we were not made aware of this. Her platelet levels started to decrease, so she started to feel a weakness in her fatigue. She was having a hard time breathing. During pregnancy, you try to walk with your partner as much as possible. So, we were it went from being able to walk half a mile to get to the park and walk around the park to barely being able to make it down the block. And I would pretty much have to carry her back. So imagine that, and having to carry children up and down stairs. So she's having a hard time breathing. She's carrying children upstairs, getting kicked in the stomach, getting saliva rubbed on her during the peak of COVID. And the school is not supposed to be accepting this, without a doctor's note. So she's voicing these concerns to her OBGYN that she's known for a long time. She's voicing these concerns to her OBGYN, and we were having previous issues with that same OBGYN that I'm not going to get into. Amber was trying to get early FMLA from work. She's voicing these concerns to her OB, and then her OBGYN is telling her, well, there are other pregnant women working through this. Basically stating that Amber's no better. Amber's no different. Not being attentive to Amber's needs. Meanwhile, there are white women who are getting early leave from their jobs, whom are due after Amber. So on the FMLA forms, that Amber had to return to HR, her OBGYN stated that Amber wanted to leave for personal reasons. So HR denied her FMLA. We had to go through the process again. Spoke to her mother. Her mother has worked at the hospital that Amber passed away in, unfortunately. Amber's mother had worked there for 25 years. Amber's 26 years old. So she had to reach out and file a complaint on that OBGYN. And instead of the OBGYN trying to fix her mistakes or be more attentive to Amber, she was more or less more worried about who Amber's mother was and who she was to Montefiore, the facility, versus, trying to figure out what was going on with Amber. So then she appointed us to a high-risk doctor, only because that's the only way Amber would get her early FMLA, not because her platelet levels are dropping and her health is deteriorating. Fast forward, we're moving into telehealth in March, late February, early March. Amber had gotten some blood work done February 24th, the day after her birthday. So we're waiting for these results because the due date's getting closer and closer and closer. We're not hearing anything. They're introducing telehealth. They talk about Amber's platelets, or her blood count, and they tell her to take iron pills. They prescribed her iron pills, and then they made us buy our own blood pressure monitor to keep up with her blood pressure. They did the same thing every week throughout March. She's in her second trimester, coming into her third. She's coming into being seen every 2 weeks, transitioning to supposed to be seen every week. They're not seeing her. She's voicing her concerns. They're not listening to her. They're telling her to do the same thing every week, and she's not feeling any better. So we looked into seeking midwifery care and doula care. People that were going to be more attentive to Amber. The group that we pointed out, that we ended up interviewing, and we had a good bond with them, Miss Nubia Martin. She was the one that told us on April 3rd that Amber was too high risk for them to take because of her platelets. So we're trying to figure out other options, what else we can do. Maybe we can get into a birthing center. So we needed to get, or we couldn't get into a birthing center as well because Amber was yet again too high risk. If your platelet levels are at a 125, it needs to be monitored. If it's at a 100, it needs to be monitored and treated. It was well under 100 when we found out. So Ms. Nubia Martin was telling us that she needs medical assistance immediately. So yet again, we ended up switching from one Montefiore facility to another Montefiore facility. We went where her mom actually worked. Her mom had us set up with a high-risk doctor, which Amber never got to meet. They told us that they were going to take care of us. We thought they were really going to take care of her because we had an inside source. We had someone that was going to help us through this. No, they were still ignoring Amber as well. We needed to get some updated blood work. We went on the 13th of April. And we were trying to hear back on some results. Yet again, we're not hearing anything. We had to reach out to Amber's mother again, to reach out to somebody, to speak to the people at the lab, to speak to the doctors. So after someone got on them, they started apologizing to Amber, told her to come back on the 17th, on April 17th. We went to get some more blood work done on April 17th. I actually had to take Amber and her mother because her mother was actually filing for something as well, because she was going to help. She was going to stay with Amber and help out while I was taking care of the household. So her mother was in there maybe at the blood lab for maybe 10 minutes. Amber was in there for over an hour. And she's calling me, complaining, and she's telling me like, oh, they don't have anything ready here, after they had told us that they had everything ready for her. They don't have none of her paperwork. They can't do any of her blood work without the paperwork from the doctor. So now the doctor, the associates at the lab are blaming the doctors. The doctors are blaming the lab. We're really not trying to hear that. We're just trying to figure out what we can do to get the best results. You know, they didn't have anything ready. So I'm telling Amber, you know, let's go. I'll bring you back later on once they have everything together. Brought her back later on that afternoon. Amber spoke with a representative that was apologizing to her yet again and was telling her, oh, our system's clear out. They had no recollection of her being there on the 13th, on April 13th. So they couldn't find her blood work. But they had documentation of her February 24th appointment. So we were confused. You know, we got the blood work done that 17th. And that's when Amber made her last post on Twitter, stating that she wanted to write a tell-all about the medical neglect that and the incompetence that she was facing throughout pretty much her whole pregnancy. We're talking before COVID. She was being ignored before COVID. COVID just masked it. They called us back the very next day on April 18th, about 8:30 in the morning, and told us that we need to head to the hospital immediately. That Amber needs to come in for treatment. So we're packing bags, we're heading to the hospital. And when we get there, you know, it's not the best experience because Amber's telling me, I don't want to go by myself. I don't trust these people. I don't want to go by myself. Because we were trying to hire at least a doula to be bedside. But due to the COVID rule, the hospitals weren't accepting midwives or doulas to be present, which is detrimental. You know, she's telling me she doesn't want to go up by herself. And, you know, we get there, we get to the receptionist. I'm telling the receptionists they have to make some sort of special accommodation. They have to figure something out, considering the fact that she's been ignored her whole pregnancy, and that these doctors don't know what they're doing. There's no communication. The head surgeon that Amber was supposed to meet, she never met. He was canceling high-risk appointments. There was a high-risk appointment that was canceled, and it was moved 4 days after Amber passed. So, you know, we're speaking to the receptionists. They're being very rude. You know, I'm telling them she's scared. She needs to go up with someone. At least let her mother go up because her mother works here, has worked here for 25 years. She has her badge. She has the proper PPE. They weren't allowing her to come up. And then they kicked me out of the lobby. They told me, okay, Mr. Baby Daddy, security. A woman came up to me, a black woman. Okay, Mr. Baby Daddy, you can go sit over there. She will be fine. She will be okay. You can go sit over there. Matter of fact, leave. We don't want you in here. We don't want you in the lobby. So I had to go wait in my car for Amber. She's calling me, telling me what's going on. So they have to keep her there for, she was supposed to be there for a couple of hours, and then it turned to a day. Then it turned to a couple of days, and they can't figure out why her platelet levels are dropping. They're telling her it's either going to be preeclampsia or it's going to be COVID. Now, Amber and I were very excited about this baby. We took every necessary precaution to stay safe. We stayed inside, we social distanced, we did everything we were supposed to do. Amber didn't have COVID. They tested her for COVID twice. Came back negative. They wanted to test her a third time. She calls me on the 20th and tells me they're inducing her labor for me to pack up bags for myself, to pack a bag for Elias, to pack a bag for her, as if I'm going to be there for a day or two while they induce her labor. So I get there later on that afternoon. I do my COVID test. I pass my COVID test. They let me up. They're giving me blankets and pillows and everything as if I'm going to be staying there for a while, you know, trying to make me comfortable. I was in that room with Amber for maybe 2.5 hours. They're coming into the room telling us that the baby isn't taking the contraction or isn't handling the contractions well. But mind you, the baby is not in distress. Amber's not sick. The only feeling she's having at this point is you know, the numbness in her butt from the pressure of the baby. She's only dilated about 2 centimeters. You know, the baby was still wanting to grow. He was still attached to the placenta. It wasn't his time. He wasn't ready. It seemed like they were trying to rush the whole procedure after they found out that she was only 2 centimeters after inducing her for a certain time period. You know, they're coming back in with other options, telling, you know, going over the risk factors of all of these options, and C-section being the last option. C-section being the last option. They're telling us that the maternal mortality rates on these procedures are very, very, like they said, very to me, maybe 6 or 8 times. You know, very low chances of this and that happening. So then I'm asking as well, do you guys have everything? Are you guys prepared? Do you have everything ready in the room? Oh, we assure you we have everything ready in the room. Everyone that you would want to be in the room with Amber will be with Amber. Because at this point, they're starting to push for a cesarean. They leave the room. Before they leave the room, they're telling me about my distance with Amber. I can't be too close to Amber because of COVID. They don't know who has COVID. And then the nurse stated that she doesn't even know if she has COVID because the nurses don't get tested. It's a very unsettling feeling before you're about to go into delivery. So they leave. Amber has me talking to her stomach, has me talking to Elias, because that's what we were doing every night. We were talking to Elias, reading him books. We were singing to him, just always talking to him. So he knew our voice. He was always active when it came to me speaking to him. So she had me speaking to her stomach, you know, singing to Elias, make sure he's active and alert, because he's coming. They come back in the room, pushing for C-section, telling me I'm going to have to leave soon. Amber's scared. She's starting to tear up. She's nervous. And I'm just trying to prep her mind. Like, this is what we wanted. You know, we planned for this baby, and it's just very unfortunate that we gave birth during COVID times. It kind of almost felt like everything was falling apart during the 3rd trimester, and that she felt like we were going to give birth during the end of the world. Is what it felt like. You know, something that was supposed to be really exciting for us, something that we prepared all year round for. You know, I'm talking to her, telling her she's going to be fine. This is, you know, we're getting ready to take our baby home. We're going home. She's looking at me and she's telling me, yes, all 3 of us are going home. And she just keeps saying it, all 3 of us are going home. That was the last time I seen Amber alive. They took her away from me, brought me to another room, told me that she'll be back in 20 minutes. That I can see the baby as soon as he's in NICU. They bring me to the room. They didn't even offer me to lay my bags anywhere that I just packed for all of us. I'm in a shared room. So eventually I just grew tired and laid my bag down. And I sat outside of the room on this bench, and in front of the bench is a set of double doors, and through the doors is several different rooms. Something just told me to stand up and look through the window. And so I did. I sat there for 5 minutes outside the window. And then I see them rushing a baby covered in blood out of the OR. And I figure, oh wow, that's my son. He's here. I can't wait to meet him. Right after, the announcer starts saying that they need all medical emergency staff to the OR. They had to say that she was a non-COVID patient 3 times before people really started rushing to her aid. And that's when I knew this has to be Amber. We're not hearing anything, or I'm not hearing anything from the nurses. One of the nurses comes up and asks, hey, do you have anyone that could be here for you? And I told her, yes. Well, Amber's mother is actually right downstairs. She worked a late shift that night to stay close by Amber. They let me call her up, and I'm explaining to her for what I knew, because yet again, nobody's telling us anything. We're asking questions, we're asking what's going on. Yet again, nobody's telling us anything. So another nurse comes up and asks me, do you have anyone that could be here for you? Where's your mom? Where's your dad? Where's your brothers, your sisters? Anyone? I've gone through enough death in my family to know that these are not good signs, especially during COVID times, where they're not letting anyone up, doulas, midwives, but now they're allowing my family to share a room. They're preparing a room for my family. My family gets there. The nurses are trying to drag me away from the window to go see the family. And I'm just frantic at this point. I'm so scared for Amber. I eventually give in, and I'm walking back to go see the family, and then I hear the nurses, or the receptionist at the front, or the nurses, where is this at? This hasn't arrived from the blood bank yet. Where is this? And they're rushing blood from another side of the hospital through the hallways. After they had just made me aware that they had everything prepared in that room for her. They weren't ready at all. I go see my family for maybe a minute. And then I'm getting ready to head back to the doors because I don't want to leave Amber's side. The head nurse stops me again as I'm leaving. Oh, would you want to go see your son? He's in NICU. Do you want to go see him? So I go see my son, and I'm trying my best to be so excited. I'm trying my best. I'm glad my son is healthy. I'm glad my son is alive. But I'm so nervous for his mother. I see my son for maybe 5 minutes, and it's so hard to just think about him and not having his mother. So I head right back up, and I'm back at the double doors, and they're trying to get me away again. And, I'm telling them I don't want to leave. Like, they finally left me alone. Doctors are leaving, or no, we're here. I'm asking nurses yet again, what's going on? Because her platelet levels were so low, right, that her blood was unable to clot. So her blood was water-like. I'm asking them, because I know this information, I'm asking them, did they at least sew her up? The head nurse, I don't want to mention anyone's name because I know this is information she probably wasn't supposed to be giving me, but you know, I'm asking her, did they at least sew her back up? The head nurse tells me no. They had actually cut her open some more, performed a hysterectomy on her, thinking that that's where the blood was coming from. That's where the bleeding was coming from. They removed her uterus. You know, we also had plans. We had plans on having another child. You know, so that was very hurtful to hear. Not only did they cut her open like that, they actually had to cut open her chest as well and massage her heart manually. So doctors were switching on and off, massaging her heart manually for 2 hours. The doctors come back out. You know, I'm seeing white and black doctors leave her room. Black doctors are shaking their heads. And they're in the hallway with me, but they're down the hallway, and I don't think they want to approach me. But they're looking at me as if they have something to tell me. There's white doctors that are leaving her room, and they're coming up to me, patting me on the shoulder. You're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. You're going to be all right. While they get ready to leave and go spend time with their families. They're telling us to all meet in the family room. Yet again, not a good sign. The head surgeon finally shows up, the one that was supposed to be, delivering the birth, that was supposed to be working with Amber, the one that Amber never got to meet. He finally shows up. He sees a room packed with family, so he grabs another doctor and comes in. And he's telling us, the first thing he says is, "I'm sorry for your loss. I lost it." Everyone was just in shock. And I wish I could talk about the rest of the stuff, but due to the case and everything, there's certain things that I can't touch on. But they mistreated Amber. They mishandled Amber, and due to a COVID response, right, on the death certificates, they're not filling out the information that they should be filling out. If I wouldn't have started a GoFundMe page for Amber's Go Away, they would have taken Amber and put her on the back of an ice truck and taken her body to Hart Island, and they would have dumped her in a hole with the rest of the COVID patients. There was just so much that was done wrong to Amber, and she certainly didn't deserve it. They didn't even, her mother that's worked there for 25 years, they didn't even put her on the death certificate as the mother. They left it unknown. Partner, father, unknown. They knew who I was. So they tried to make it seem like Amber was just some unclaimed black girl with no family, is what it seemed like to me. And I've been combating ever since. I started my advocacy the very next day. I took action. Amber's mother is worried about how we're going to pay for this, funeral expenses. And, we planned a birth, and now we're planning a funeral. She's trying to figure out how we're going to do this, and she's stressing out about it. And I'm telling her, I'm going to handle everything. I'm going to handle all of this. I'm want to take care of all of it. She shouldn't have to worry about a thing.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump in really quick because I'm heartbroken, brother. I'm so heartbroken to hear the story. But I just needed to give you the space. But I just want to also just mention that I see you, and I see the courage and the power in which you have, and you stood in this moment. And I thank you, just to be able to be in conversation with you. And I know that we got to fight and we got to push, and and unfortunately, this story, we've heard it too many times. But even in this pain, I do want to ask, because you mentioned some of it. I also want to lift up the awesomeness of Amber in the moment in which you're in right now as Elias' father. What were the things that you all were thinking about becoming parents? What were the hopes and the dreams that you still get to share with Elias that you both talked about? What were you looking forward to? Did you talk about breastfeeding at all?
Definitely education, and working, like making his baby foods and stuff, because we have a compactor. We don't really trust products like Gerber and stuff like that. So I know, like, we were really big on reading. She left me behind like a big herbal book for more or less holistic care. But I'm looking forward to raising him the way that we plan to raise him, properly educated. I have a tutor set up for him for when he's 4. I want to be able to, from everything that I'm doing, I want to be able to show Elias who his mother is and what she stood for. And that's going to be a lot of the stuff that I'm getting ready to show Elias, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, we actually, I didn't catch the last part. You went out. Still there? Well, until we get Bruce back, hopefully he's able to jump back in. I think that just to talk about sort of Brother Bruce's story, to hear about his partner Amber Isaac. We know that these are the challenges and these are the moments that we're fighting for. And unfortunately, we've already heard of other deaths in New York City. Sister Shaisha Washington. We know of other stories like Sister Shimoni Gibson. And we need to continue to talk about what's happening in our community. We know that Black women are experiencing death 8 times more than white women in New York City. And this is a tragedy. This is structural racism glaring in our face. And what do we need to do to address it? And so even during Black Breastfeeding Week, we need to sort of hold this truth, because this is what we need to push against. And as we sort of sit in our pain, we also have to think about the community and the world that we want to reimagine and we want to live in. And so being a part of, what we want to see in the community we want to see, we all have to be a part of it. And the work of doulas, midwives, the work of birthing people all over this city, I know that they've been really championing the type of care that we want in our community. And can certainly sort of share some of the things that, I've recently experienced with my wife, Diane Lucas, and being able to see our daughter come into this world in Zuri Tayo. And it's been an opportunity to really understand that it is truly something related to racism, because we see some of the challenges even for Diane and myself. I think that it's these are the things that that we need to continue to uplift. I'm getting some messages from the host. I think Bruce is coming back, and I'm being asked to share some comments. There are some comments here. So I know that Sister Patty had asked about the GoFundMe page, so we have to make sure that we get the GoFundMe page out from Brother Bruce when he comes back. Sister Janet Thomas mentioned that the medical system is racist, and this is absolutely unacceptable. So sorry for your loss and for all the people who suffer unnecessarily. I see you. Sam Purdy Porter, I had HELLP syndrome with my second baby, but it was not found until right before my baby was born. Platelets were extremely low, liver enlarged, but mine just came up the last part of pregnancy. It was so scary. Thank God for the Black doc who saved me and my baby's life and was filling in for my regular doc. Lots of deepest condolences, unacceptable, so appreciate all those comments. Brother Bruce, glad to have you back. Can you hear me? All right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Not a problem. Not a problem. You were out with nature. So you were being one with nature. So, we need that sometimes. I was reading off some of the comments. There were some folks who were asking for the GoFundMe page. So if we can share that, if it's still live.
So no, I actually closed the GoFundMe page once I had everything that I needed, but we will be accepting donations soon. I'm actually ready. My 501c3 for the foundation will be complete soon, and my website will be up soon, so I'll have a direct link there. So I currently am asking everyone to just follow the Save a Rose page on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. So for Instagram, you can find it at savearose.foundation. And for Facebook, you can just find it for Save a Rose, as well as for Twitter, just Save a Rose. We'll be posting updates on there.
All right, great. And we could maybe, if Crystal or Kimberly, maybe we could post that into the comment section, so we can make sure that it gets out. I do want to, because I think there may be a couple of questions that we want to take, but I also want to just go back to something right before you went out. I was, sort of wanted to hear a little bit more about you and Amber and some of the goals and, the vision that you had as being parents together with Elias, and you cut out a little bit. So I just want to make sure that we heard from you fully.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We just wanted to have the most healthiest baby as possible. Amber was a pescatarian, so all she ate was fish. Up until she was pregnant, she became vegan. She had a strict vegan diet. She was very big on her smoothies, her juices. She was always making like concoctions to boost the immune system. Always on top of vitamins and stuff. So she was nurturing Elias well. She was giving him all of the correct, all the right vitamins, all the right nutrients. She was very on top of, education as well. We actually wanted to move to Florida. We were looking at some places out in Florida and looking at some areas that had great schools. And of course, schooling goes beyond the classroom as well. So we were wanting to, school him from home, make sure he's reading, not really, wasting too much of his time, messing around. We wanted him to be pretty straightforward with everything. And, that's something that I'm still aiming to do. So yeah, I actually have a tutor set up for him for when he's 4. So trying to have him, because I can't speak Spanish at all. Me and Amber were both half Puerto Rican and Black, but she was the Spanish speaking one. So I definitely want him to be able to speak Spanish fluently. So that's stuff I'm trying to get him set up for as well. Try to learn myself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. No, I love it. I love it. So as you know, we talked about it. This is Black Breastfeeding Week, ManDay Monday, and talk to me and to the listeners about how you're feeding Elias. How did you hear about donor milk? How did you get educated on it? Clearly, there's a lot of attention to health and wellness and making sure that Elias has all the things that he needs. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know Amber wanted to breastfeed. So after her passing, we weren't really pushing too much towards formula. So when I started my advocacy, I teamed up with a lot of members in the birthing community, a lot of midwives, a lot of doulas who shared a lot of recommendations. I was talking to Amber's family about breastfeeding, and they didn't really want me to do donor milk. They weren't really for it, but I was speaking with the doulas and making sure, because I feel like breast milk is the better option when it comes to breast milk versus formula. But what people aren't told is you can screen where the milk is coming from. So that's what I did. I ended up screening the donors to make sure that they had the same dietary plan as Amber. That way, Elias is still getting all the vitamins and nutrients that he was receiving from Amber. So that's what I've been doing. I met a nice group of two donors that give out to Elias. Wonderful women. But yeah, I get them screened. They get COVID tests done, and people. I don't think people really have that option, or people don't really know about too many options because Black families haven't always had the choice of breastfeeding. Partially when we were forced into slavery to feed white babies as wet nurses. Hospitals, predominantly Black, are less likely to promote Black women. They introduce them to formula versus breastfeeding. But when it comes to white women, they more or less push them towards breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Black families don't understand or don't agree with, donor milk or receiving milk from someone else. Access to Black and brown lactation consultants can be scarce.
Mm-hmm.
It was very hard for me because you don't see it too much.
How did you? I'm sorry. How did you get connected to the resources?
So through the doulas, they introduced me to women. I screened the women, found the perfect women that I thought were had the right dietary plan for Elias. So a group of midwives, they're really big in the birthing community. They know who is who.
Mm-hmm.
Or doulas, I do apologize. They know who is who. They know who's donating what. They know about their dietary plans and stuff. So I recommend if you are looking for donor milk or you are looking into breastfeeding, to reach out to a donor and screen these parents.
Mm-hmm.
Screen these mothers. Make sure that they're on whatever dietary plan that your spouse is on.
Yeah. No, I totally hear you. I mean, just in my own background, knowing the benefits of breast milk, the benefits of bonding, and making sure, even cost savings. Like these are certainly things that you sort of hear about, but you also have to also be okay with that process. And I think the process is super, super important, and having all the information is really necessary. Sometimes you hear about, initially the latch is harder, but sometimes you're not hearing about all the resources as you're mentioning, which I think is super, super important. And I think these are why doulas is so important for our community. For my own wife, one of the major issues that she had was oversupply. And that became a challenge because, our daughter wasn't staying on the breast, that often, or, she would be very, very engorged, and we knew that could be leading to mastitis. And so there were all these different things that we needed to make sure that we were doing, and I needed to do to support her, because even as a physician, but sometimes you sort of need some other voices. And so it was good that we did have our doula, and we continue to have our postpartum support. She even had, she even went to, some of the breastfeeding support groups. So really important to just know what's in the community. So I appreciate that, just knowing that. We're coming to the end, and I also just want to sort of thank you again for just sharing your story, for allowing me to help facilitate. But really, I could have just got out the way and just allowed you to just be here. But I appreciate you for letting me hang around and just be in your presence, Brother Bruce. Any wise words, wisdom for new dads? This the first time dads out here. I have a 6-month-old, turning 6 months tomorrow. So, any wise words that you want to share?
To the new fathers, there's help out there. There's information out there. I strongly recommend that you find someone that can help you, because as men, we're not taught to be nurturers. Women are born nurturers. We're taught to be providers. We're taught to be the protectors. But for the new dads that are stepping into this, you have to learn patience, and that's something that having a child will teach you, patience. If you are struggling, reach out to somebody that can help you. Don't be afraid to reach out. There are also father support groups out there as well. I'm a part of a father support group, a couple of them actually. So we're always asking each other a bunch of questions, or always looking for information, or always trying to find the best care for our child. So I strongly recommend that you find people that you're comfortable with, that can guide you through this, and try to take it one day at a time. And I think the best thing about becoming a father is watching your child figure out who they're becoming. That's the most amazing thing to me. Watching Elias smile and laugh and giggle and see his goofy side, like he's always constantly wanting to play. So it's taking those moments. They're not going to be here forever. Just know that support is out there, and if you need support, reach out to me. I'll reach back to anybody. I'm talking to everybody right now. Trying to give out as much love and inspiration and information as I can. Trying to educate people as much as I can. Just know that it's going to be okay and that you got this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's spot on, and not much to add for new fathers. I think each day teaches you something about your child, but also teaches something or reveals something about yourself. And it is absolutely the first 6 months. Every day has been a learning experience. And I have been trying to cherish it as much as I can. People always say, take as many photos as possible. And I haven't really done this. And I think the other part that I would say is take notes, jot down the things that change about yourself, about your baby, sort of do a little running journal. I haven't taken note of my own advice, but I think I understand why people have been really encouraging me to do that. Because, we're going to have to, talk about it with our children, and so to tell their story. And there are going to be so many questions, and I want to be able to tell Nzuri, just about her first year of life. And so, and being in relationship with your child, allowing a father to do the one-on-one, I think is so important. And skin to skin contact.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those are just the best moments. And so, I really hope that new dads really take that time, just as important. And also, take your paternity leave. I'm a huge advocate of paternity leave and trying to, advocate for more time. Fathers need to be there 3 months, if possible. But I think it's so important. Brother Bruce, tell everyone again about the Save a Rose Foundation. How they can get in contact with you, all the different handles that you have.
Yeah, so I started the Save a Rose Foundation to combat against systemic racism when it comes to maternal health. We're posting constantly on our social media accounts. I can be followed at Instagram at savearose.foundation. And on Twitter, we can be seen on just at Save a Rose, and Facebook as well, just at Save a Rose. Those are our three. We're mainly on Instagram. We do a lot on Instagram. So I ask everybody that you follow the Instagram page. We're constantly doing updates, and then constantly getting ready and prepared for new events. We threw a pretty successful event on August 1st, and everybody's been asking when we're going to do our next one. So I hope to see everybody out there.
Awesome. And I'll just quickly mention, as was mentioned on the outset of this awesome time with Brother Bruce, but I'm at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and we have some amazing people, some who have joined us this evening, who've been doing some amazing work, both in the Bureau of Maternal and Infant Reproductive Health, in our Division of Family and Child Health, as well as the Center for Health Equity and Community Wellness, which is division in our lead. Number of different initiatives, which include Nurse Family Partnership, Newborn Home Visiting, Healthy Start Brooklyn, and really supporting doulas for Black and Brown women in New York City. But also data, because we need data to really make sure that we're advocating for the resources that we need in our community. And so you can find many of these reports from Feeding Our Future, which is really lifting up the stories of Black and Brown women and their caregivers and their family members around breastfeeding, to the Maternal Morbidity Report here in New York City that calls out the inequities that we see. I think this is the type of information that we have to share widely, and we have to ensure that we're using it as we advocate. And so with that, I do want to thank Brother Bruce. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story, for being the man who you are, the father that you are for Elias. I think that it is so important that you and I, have this conversation, and we do this in other spaces when the camera is off, because it's so important. And I want to thank Kimberly Alice Sears for creating this space, the co-founder of Black Breastfeeding Week. I think it is important that on this day, the last day of August, the birth month of Marcus Garvey, the birth month of Chairman Fred Hampton, the same month that we celebrate Black August, Black resistance, that we continue to create and talk about the communities in the world that we want to see. And I think we cannot lose that feeling at all. We got to be resistant, and we got to keep pushing. And so with that, Brother Bruce, any last words before we sign off?
Everyone, please be safe out there. And if you are pregnant and you aren't high risk, I advise seeking midwifery and doula service. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Love y'all.
Love you. All right. Love you too, brother. Be well.
You as well.